Good afternoon, Redler T3 Live. Welcome to today's recap. So it is Thursday, it's the end of a shortened week, and there's still a lot going on. Unfortunately, you can't trade it tomorrow because the markets are closed, and we have the jobs number. You know, we've talked about the narratives of what everyone's emphasizing on, and they're all emphasizing on whether or not good news is good news, bad news is bad news. When will we have rates lift off, and what will earnings be like? Well, we're about there. Next week starts earnings, and tomorrow is the jobs report. So today, people are trying to figure out what's next. Okay, what could they take overnight into, or over a 3-day weekend when a lot can go on? So what I will say is whatever you do, don't be uncomfortable. Don't go, tier 2, tier 3 short, and then all of a sudden Friday, futures are up and you're upset. You don't get to enjoy your friends, family, and you want to beat up the Easter Bunny. Same way if you're celebrating Hanukkah. I wish it was Christmas time. No, I don't. It was so cold. Passover. The last thing you want to do is be around the Seder table and be upset because of your positions against you. So if you have a thesis and you want to be with some things, you hold them. It all depends on your time frame. As far as the markets, you look at the SPX, you'll see that here's the range. We've talked about this range, and there's nothing we could do about it. The United States markets or equity markets has been a wet blanket, right? Just a big range where you have the low end of the range that started the year, you have the high end of the range that we got rejected at, and now we've been hovering in the middle. So what does that mean? It means that no one's in a rush to buy because we're not at the bottom of the range, we're not oversold, and there's no performance chasing because we're not performing. We're basically behind every indice. China's been on a roll, Europe's been on a roll, and here we are just off of that 2040 area that we've been navigating against. So here is 2040, so as long as we hold above it, I think we're somewhat constructive. Same thing that happened here. Everyone, if you remember, was getting very, very negative. Everyone thought the world was going to collapse. You had this head and shoulders top coming into February, and then you had your red dog reversal. From there, you had to cover shorts and get ready because you had your move all the way to highs. So here we are now in April, and we're just about 40 or 50 handles off it, and it seems as if we should be able to continue higher, okay? And if you want to compartmentalize it, here is your next area. So this is resistance. Write this down. That is 2,000, about 86, and then you have the highs, and here is your support. As long as we're above this, you can't really have too much short in the brain. So we'll see what's next, and obviously on Friday, you're not going to be able to trade unless you trade futures, and if you do that, you know what? Good luck. Here's the Russell. The Russell is still hanging around closer to highs. It doesn't have as much US dollar exposure. So with that being said, it is still in the game to make new highs first. I don't like the close here. I figured it might have been a little stronger, but anyway, very close to the highs, above the 8 and the 21 day. You look at the mid caps also very close to the prior highs. As you can see, a lot different as far as where the spiders are on the SPX. Still trending up above all the moving averages, above the 8 and 21 day, but there's not a lot of momentum. So when there's not a lot of momentum, sectors aren't going to make new highs. So right now, though, the mid caps and the Russell are showing leadership. So you take a closer look here. I just want you to see. Look where the mid caps are. Look where the Russell is as far as the high, and then look where technology is, the Qs. Qs are not performing. Qs are right now lagging. Does it mean it's the end of the world for technology? No, it's just something to observe. This is when we broke out the last time. Here's when we came into resistance to the small double top. Here is your mid-level support, and we're still just a little boring right there. So we'll have to see what's happening next. As far as the bios, them too, a little bit boring lately. You had your parabolic move in the bios. Everyone on TV, everyone on CNBC was ranting and raving on that Friday when Biogen came out with the big news with Regeneron, and it was sold. Then what did it do? It touched the 8-day moving average. So if you shorted there, maybe you covered. Then all of a sudden the day after, no bounce, breaking a trend that we've been in for multiple months. That could have been your short, and boom. And if it wasn't a short, at least you got out of the way because you had your parabolic move, sell-off, day to take notice, break below the 8-day, and then that was the follow-through. So if you look on Twitter, Red Dog put a chart in there saying maybe you want to buy the 50-day, right? If you sell the 8-day, not involved the 21-day, you have the luxury of buying at the 50-day. Well, there it was. You had a little follow-through. Then we approached this week saying, you know what? On day 3, probably a better sell to sell into resistance. If you were long, maybe get out. If you were short and you covered here, maybe you retest a short. And anyway, that was that, and then boom, right back to the lows. So at this point, the bios, which have been a leadership group, not really finding much traction, but holding the 50-day. And if you look in perspective of where it came from, why wouldn't it rest? Look, this is a monster, monster, monster move. Last time it extended, you had to move back to the 200-day. I don't know if that's going to happen here, but it's worth noting. So take a little care. I would tactically approach the bios, and we'll see what's next there. That's why I don't think you should be, tier 2, tier 3, anything. Then let's go to some individual names. We all know the names. We like to trade the high beta names and things that move, because as traders you have to find things that trade technically that go. And today was a little bit of a wish-wash, right? We've had divergences amongst sectors, and we've had divergences within sectors, so it doesn't make it easy. But there's nothing you can do about it except for control your keyboard, because if you don't, you get frustrated and you lose money. And on days when there's low volume and not much to do, I see a lot of traders doing that. So try and control yourself. Remember, that's what your parents told you when you were in kindergarten. But anyway, we're in the market now, and if you lose and you don't control yourself now, you have a little bit more ramifications versus being put in timeout. So anyway, this is Apple. Let's take a quick look at Apple, and let's look at what's been going on here. Every time Apple seems to get very tight, okay, you have a nice breakout to the upside. Here is one tight channel, broke to the upside, broke the trend. Another consolidation going into last quarter's earnings, gapped up, nice trade above 120, and I have not seen Apple this tight in a long time. So I have to be long it, and I am. And unfortunately, every time I've looked very, very closely at Apple, and every time I've thought that we're going to break above this downtrend, what happens? Bam! Got beat up. Bam! Got beat up. So we'll see what happens next. At this point, still above the 50-day. This could be the start of a new type of momentum move, but it also might not. So be in some. If you had to be in something, I would say be at least in Apple, because it could work out somewhat well. As far as social media, Facebook, little upsetting, right? That the high of the day was in the first, 15 minutes of the day, which never is good for traders. Facebook had a really good breakout. Buy here, buy there, sell there, and now it's hovering on that, breakout support area. So I am long a little bit, and it is what it is at this point. Being small if you have a thesis for Facebook, but until it breaks above this, I would not really be overly in size. Twitter was weak in the morning, came back, it's hanging in there. It also had a decent breakout, and it's been hovering and digesting and driving some people a little bit nutty, but at this point it's still above this, and it seems as if at some point, if something was going to break higher, Twitter should. It's come a long way this year, so taking its little time here makes a little bit of sense. Some guys made a little bit of money in Solar City today. Broken name, I'm still in options, but it seems as if it's trying to break above this area, and if I guess there's some news with Tesla, maybe it'll participate, but for now it's still broken, not really participating. The only thing you have here is there is huge major support that it's been holding, and at some point maybe it gets going. Tesla itself, didn't do a heck of a lot. It started to be strong. The stock's been broken. It still doesn't get much traction. All it does is squeeze shorts whenever Musk says something, and then comes right back in. Stock is still trapped. It's still in this downtrend. It's still not giving you much to hang your hat on, except for it's above this now 181 that used to be 185, and maybe at some point, I don't know what it's going to take, it breaks above this and you get some kind of move, but we'll see. What else? BIDU, you were a little weaker today. Still trapped. This looks a lot like Tesla, where it's just been in correction mode and no traction. You have to sell strength, because if you try pressing support, it hasn't been so rewarding. So it's still in here, and then this is your middle tier level. So just, again, 3 to 5 minute charts. I do not see that many stocks that are above their 8 and 21 day ready to break out, ready to go. At least there are some names that are consolidating, been in in a scenario where it's come off highs and it's getting tighter. So maybe that'll create better action for us through earnings season, which should start next week. So we'll see. We have to get through the jobs number tomorrow. As far as the banks, Goldman Sachs was real strong yesterday and still hanging around, still near the highs here. Not many other banks look as good as this, if you think that looks good. Morgan's still in this channel with not a lot of conviction either way. This is the low end. Here's your high end. And maybe at some point, if the banks want to go, this is something that could break to the upside. JP Morgan, what'd you do? Not a heck of a lot. Filled the gap, so it doesn't show you much power. Didn't fall apart, and it's kind of wedging also. So you have a lot of these little wedge patterns that might get resolution soon, just a question of which way it's going to go. We'll see soon. As far as oil, there was a deal today, right? We did a deal, or there was a negotiation where everyone made a deal with Iran, which I don't know why. I'm not going to get into the whole politics of it because I don't know the exact arrangement, but now they're allowed to produce oil and sell it. They're not being sanctioned, and everyone said that oil would fall off 5%. Well, it came down initially and held, so this range is getting tight in oil. So right around here, I said there was a 65% chance that the low is in. Still, the low has been in. We'll see what happens next, and for it to get a little bit better, it's going to have to break above this spot area. People ask me, why did I get in Chesapeake today? To be honest, I'm not exactly sure why. I know nothing about what's going on here, or why it came from 30 all the way down to here. All I know is little rounding bottom. Some of these names are working that have come off lows, and maybe this one could break above this and see a somewhat of a retracement. I know Uncle Carl Icahn has been accumulating a lot of it. I think there was some news that the CEO bought some too, so maybe it's not a bankrupt company, or there is some kind of hope here for higher prices. Some of you guys have stuck with the Russia trade. Congratulations. I know we all made some decent money in this. I remember buying the capitulation here. You had a move number one in the RSX to there, came in, retested, and then broke out again. At this point, probably some room to maybe get back up into the 19. So if you've been sticking with this trade, congratulations. It was definitely a little blood in the street there. Would I chase it up here? Probably not. It's extended, but it does look like it has some room. Some people were telling me about PBR, which also one of these bean down names that's starting to lift, that was as high as 20 down here. It's one of your treasures for trash trade. If you held it through this, and this, it's in your trash bin. If you bought it down here, maybe a little bit of a treasure, but got to see how long that lasts. So we'll see what happens here. There's definitely a little bit more room if it wants to get up to the sevens. So that's kind of what, like, my Chesapeake trade. TLT is interesting, right? A little down day. Doesn't mean rates aren't going lower or not going higher, but all it means is that more choppiness. It's come a long way. Some resistance to 132. Here's your island bottom. If you sold it when it broke the accelerated trend line at the 8-day here, which was a trend for a while, you had the luxury of buying versus this gap here, and if you did so, you made good money. And now we'll see what's next. If you're in it, make sure you have a stop at maybe 129.18. Little potent day here, and doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It just means that more sellers than buyers. So we shall see. BABA, haven't looked at it or touched it. Everyone keeps talking about it, and to me, it's just a horrendous, choppy mess. Let me repeat that: a horrendous, choppy mess, and doesn't really deserve your time. Last time I really focused on it was right here, when they're what's it called? They were able to sell their shares. They had a quick pop. They got negated, broke back below this, and that's it. Some people started getting short here. It's not an easy short, not an easy long. It's just a noisy trade for now, and nothing has changed here except for, it's just unfortunate that this vehicle that was so good here up to 120 has turned into a mess, and nothing has changed, and just put it on the back burner. That's what happens. Same thing with GPRO. The last 2 weeks, everyone's like, I'm buying GPRO. I'm like, GPRO's been broken. There was a great start of the new issue when it was above the 8-21 day and had momentum and had great support, and then it's turned into a mess. And it's been a mess, and yes, there are small little trades. Here is when life was good in GPRO. First came public, right? Consolidated, broke above the IPO high here. Let me get my trusty little marker, and just to show you how momentum stocks move, here's a nice base, held the top third from coming public, broke above this, quick move, retraced to the 8-day, held it, quick move, retraced to the 8-day, broke out again. Then this topping tells when it changed. This is when it broke the 8-day for the first time. And that is the end of a strong momentum move. Then it turns into a choppy mess. Okay, and it's been a choppy mess since. And now it's all the way down here in friggin', the basement. And everyone's trying to catch some kind of trade or bottom or this or that, and it's not easy to do. So you take a closer look here. The last thing that looked as if was promising was probably right here, when it seemed as if it was holding in there and maybe you can get a break above 44. Well, kind of broke above it and tailed, and then boom. So hopefully you didn't get caught in that mess. And at this point it's Thursday. Thursday after a week that was definitely a little difficult. We opened up Monday, gapped up, if you remember. Dow went 245 points in how long? 12 minutes. Then it did nothing the whole day. And then from like 230 to 3, it went up 250 to 300. Wow, a little follow through. If you sat there all day, maybe you made 50 points. And then the last 20 minutes of the day went back to where it opened. So if you went long on Monday thinking you had to have exposure, Tuesday and Wednesday gave you a shellacking and you probably got out of the way. And now at this point, again, one more time, you come into the end of the week. There really isn't that much to hang your hat on except for here we are a quarter later. Okay, this level here that was around 199.5 looks very similar to the one here that's around 204. You have resistance 1, resistance 2. We're still hanging around. You still have a trend that's intact. So until that changes, you stick with it. If you go from here to there, we're still somewhat in there. It's getting a little close. So we're it's gonna be interesting to see what happens here. Unfortunately, you're not gonna be able to trade Friday, so that's why if you wanted to be short and your thesis is we break 204, you go home short small. If your thesis is we hold this area the same way we held this area, you go home in certain stocks long that you like. So this way you're not trapped in indices if they gap down and they give you no way out. Or you do nothing, you wait till Monday where the market opens up. There's been enough action either way where you don't have to have a lot on your head as you celebrate Passover or Rosh Hashanah. Scott Redler, who's that guy? Oh, that's me. T3 Live, the recap. I will see you on Monday. Brittany will be back and I welcome her coming home. See you later. Have a great holiday. And I'll try and be on Twitter here and there over the weekend. Bye-bye.